Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel for another Wargaming terrain tutorial. This week we're going to be looking at a couple of really quick projects. This is just really designed to use up your extra bits, your scraps and things like that. So these are a couple of really quick builds that you can sort of adapt to whatever you need. I'll also be taking a look at a product that was sent to me by BenQ this week. It's actually really good for the hobby desk, so keep an eye out for that through the video. I hope you guys enjoy this one. A big thank you to my Patreon supporters. Obviously you guys are helping keeping this thing running. I really appreciate your help. Let's get stuck into this build. Alright guys, just quickly before we start here, I've run the numbers and as you can see by the graph, no one besides myself cares about statistics, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now these builds today are meant to be nice and quick and easy, so for the bases I'll be using this Zero Box cardboard. You will have seen me use this before in builds. I double it up just using PVA glue. The trick to this is you've got to make them sort of form the same shape as your build, and you do want to make sure when you glue them down you put something heavy on them to make sure that they stay straight. Now the first build we're going to be doing here is just going to be using some scraps from my Star Wars build I did recently. Now you can see this one does have a couple of 45s cut in it, and that's just that 45-degree cutter tool that I made and have been using for some time. You will have seen that in other videos. For this we're just making a small corner ruin. But this one's going to be quite a bit smaller, so we are just using scraps here, so I didn't want to use a great lot of foam. I wanted this to be a nice quick build I can sort of whip out in a day. This one and the other one that you'll see coming shortly. Now I've cut out the windows, I've started to chip away at these edges here to add some battle damage. Those window sills you'll see there, they're just cut from the windows that we cut out, and they're not glued as you can see just at the moment. I'm going to go in and add the final details for these walls, so you can add bullet holes, crack marks, whatever you want here. As you can see, I'm going to add a bit more detail, a few more chips and breaks as we build this and put it all together. Putting it down and gluing the walls together is really simple with just some hot glue here. You will have seen all these sort of techniques before. Just push these in so that the glue kind of goes into the middle rather than to the outside edge. And I just sort of measure up a little platform and just break it off and glue that in with some hot glue as well. Now this little platform at the top may be more aesthetic than actually usable because it is quite small, but you never know, you might fit a mini up there as well. This is going to be a nice little bit of cover terrain. Working with the other bits and pieces we've got, you'll see that these little things are, once you sort of got a few in your collection, you really can sort of fit out a table and make for some great games with this sort of stuff. As you can see, just hot glue down onto my base. The base there is really cut quite close to the edges. That's the key to these sort of cardboard bases. Now I'm going to be adding in some rebar. So this is just some plastic coated wire I've picked up from the craft store. Just cut some really small lengths of that, bend them as just before I put them in there. And we're just going to poke those in for now. You will notice that generally you'll probably want to sort of reinforce that with a little bit of PVA glue because some of these are really loosely sort of sitting in that foam, so we'll do that very shortly. You can see here it adds a nice little bit of detail. I've gone back here and gone over some of the concrete barricades I did and added some rebar into those as well. I'll put a link to that video because that was a nice little build for some scraps as well. It's great. With the rebar in there, they look really cool. Now I'm sorry the lighting in this video is a little messed up. I actually filmed this before BenQ reached out to me to take a look at one of their e-reading desk lamps for my hobby space. Now this lamp turned out to be really solid while also being very versatile. It's got a very nice reach with a recessed braided cable that seems to match the lamp colour. While it might simply look like a fancy lamp head, this design actually does help spread more light across the surface, so it is good in that way. On-off is via a touch-sensitive button at the top with customizable colour, temperature and brightness all through a dial, which is also located on the lamp head. Now the lamp boasts zero flicker technology and a colour temperature range between 2700K and 5700K with a colour rendering index above 95. Now I have no idea what any of that means, but hopefully that's helpful to you. Pressing the dial on the top allows you to switch between adjusting your color temperature and the brightness of your chosen color temperature. This is actually really easy to use, and the lamp actually retains your settings between uses as well. Now I don't know whether it was on purpose or accidentally, but BenQ really have made a great lamp for the hobby desk with this one. So far it's really solid. It doesn't take up a lot of room on my desk while it does cover quite a large area. Most importantly, it gives me heaps of really nice light for everything I'm doing. So this one will definitely stay on the desk. Price for me might be the only real downside on this one, not because I think it's bad value at all. Knowing what I know, I wouldn't regret this purchase at all, but I don't see that kind of money often these days. Anyway, while I was sent this product free by BenQ, I was not paid in any other way, nor do I have affiliate links or anything like that. So whether you buy this lamp or not is not affecting me in any way. You can find links to this one in the description below. Now, it really is a great lamp, but if you don't like seeing that sort of thing on my channel, you can always jump over to my Patreon and subscribe there, and we can all fight the power together. Anyway, we're on to the next build now. You would have seen this one at the start of the video. A bit more of a barricade for this one, so we're going to be using, again, just the same base we used before, but we're also going to be using some cereal box cardboard here to make the walls for our little barricade. Now, this is going to be a corner piece as well, as you can see from the base I've got there. I've tried to keep, again, the base very close to the walls here. Simple cutout of the shape you want for your barricade, it doesn't really matter. I'm using a skewer here, so a bamboo skewer, it's a square one. I'm just going to use that as a support for the front wall here, and I'll use another one of these to support the side wall as well. Using super glue here is really easy. It makes everything a lot quicker to put this together. We will use PVA glue once we start adding in some details, but super glue here is just really good for this cereal box cardboard, and this little bamboo skewer, it just binds really quickly and gets this project moving forward. Once we add more details to this, you'll see it's all pretty well supported, so don't worry too much if it's a bit flimsy. This is just some corrugated paper from the craft store. This stuff's really cheap. You can get about 15 sheets of A4 for a few dollars the most. So this stuff works really well. It doesn't matter what color it is. We can just sort of cut it down into some little corrugated sheets if you like. We'll paint these up to make them look a little bit more metal, I guess. But you'll notice that this is just going on pretty random. I'm going to use a couple of flat pieces of cardboard in here as well. This is going to just break up that pattern of the corrugated iron, so these are just going to be some flat peel sheets here. As you can see, just sort of glue those on so they all fit. We've got a bit of overlap over the top, that doesn't matter. We're going to cover up this cardboard at the back here now with some, I'm going to be using some balsa wood here, but you could honestly just use paddle pop sticks or craft sticks or stirrers or something for this. Balsa wood I find is just really easy to use. It's nice and soft, and you don't have to break your hands trying to cut this stuff down. So I'm just going to be placing this down just as some boards across the back. This will cover up the entire part of the cardboard we've got exposed. And I'm not going to join these up too closely because I do want some small gaps in there. Again, this is just a smack together kind of crappy barricade, so we're not looking for super fine details here. We're just going to sort of glue all these in place till they fit. And we'll add some more supports very shortly to this build, as you'll see, and it'll start all coming together. So now once we've got all that built, I'm going to be using these square bamboo sticks again. Now these are perfect for our supports for the back of the wall here. You just need to push these down. Again, super glue in place is the perfect way to go here. I'm trying to get these done as quick as I possibly can, so I've used some extra matchsticks there just to, add extra supports. They don't really do a great lot, but easy to put in, and you don't need to weather those up or anything, just break down some matchsticks. Now finally we're going to get in and just sort of shore up this bit of rebar that we put into this corner build, and we're also going to start adding a few little extra details to these builds. Now the PVA glue I used for the rebar is just a little bit watered down, just so that it gets into the cracks and crevices of that where we've put that rebar. You can see it dries nice and clear, so there's nothing really to worry about doing that, and it will just help keep those little bits of wire in place. You can see here I'm just using lots of scraps that I've got left over from foam, bits that I've broken off just before to make the walls. I'm just using that as little bits of rock here. I have got, as you can see, a little container full of actual rocks there. I just find mixing this up a little bit is a little bit better. I find using the real rocks at the very end, just because their color is quite good, and I like the variation so that they're not all the same as the rest of the rocks I put on there as in the foam. So you'll see here I'm just sort of covering everything. I found this piece here that I did start a while ago. It was a bit of a test piece for some bricks. I just felt the bricks were a bit out of scale, so I just sort of shelved this, but I figure while I'm at it, I may as well paint this up. It's just a piece of foam with some carved bricks on it, so there's nothing really to that one. We're going to go in now and just add in some more details with our sand. For this I'm using the Army Painter's Brown Battleground. Again, it's just a nice coloured stone, like rock there. I don't have to add too much. I could, you know, give it a bit of a wash or something if I wanted to, but if I'm going for a quick build, I find this brown battleground just a straight on colour that seems to work well. As you'll see with these builds, I'm not going to change any of that. I'm not going to wash it or hit it with any sort of pigments or anything. I'm just going to put this stone on and leave it as it is. And you'll see that it works quite well across all three builds we've got going here. Now finally, once I've got the stones and gravel in place, I'm going to go over everything with some watered down PVA. I find it best to use an old brush here. This way you can just sort of press it into where you need it. Most of your rocks and stuff will be glued in pretty well. You will notice that brush will take a bit of a flogging from the stones that it'll pick up as you add that on. But again, much like when we did the rebar on the concrete building there, that PVA glue and water will dry perfectly clear, and we can start moving on now and adding on other details without having to worry about that sand falling off at all. Now I've got this old palette here, which is something I made way back. I've got a video of that, I'll put a link to it. I've just broken that palette into little pieces that I'm going to use here. I've also got some old drums that I made, just some straws that I've painted up essentially. Again, there's another video for that if you want to check it out. I'm just reinforcing all these little pieces as I put them on with a little drop of glue, just to make sure again that they're not going to fall off. Now this is the Army Painter's barbed wire. This stuff is really good. A small container has been going for ages for me, so you know, don't worry that there's not going to be enough in one of those containers from Army Painter, because they are, you know, as you can see, that roll I've got there is going to last me a very long time. I just find with the barbed wire, it's good to not only make the little rolls and the barricades as full, but as you can see, I'm just placing in some broken bits of barbed wire here. Not everything needs to be built up perfectly. This is a wreck, you know, a bit of a ruin. Now the final steps I'm going to take here is adding in a couple of posters. I did this on some old shipping containers that I made ages ago, and the effect works really well. I find you can see these aren't printed very well. You won't see much of this picture at all by the time we're finished with it, so I find tearing them up as well makes them look a lot more weathered and worn. It's easier to do this before you put them on to get them to stick onto the surface I want and not peel away or get, you know, kind of wrecked over time. I find soaking them in the PVA glue and water and then pressing them on where you want. If you're using something like this brick wall, it's nice to try and get the impression of the bricks behind the poster you're putting on. Some of these will get a little bit fiddly because putting that paper in the water and PVA glue gets very soft, so it tends to want to break. But once I've got them in place, I just go back over with my brush and a little bit of that watered down PVA glue just around the edges to make sure everything sort of sticks in place. Now I'm just using Army Painter's grass tufts here for some grass effect along these. This just adds a nice bit of colour. It's really quick, really easy to do this to your builds. Packet lasts a long time, and if you've got a couple of different sorts, a little bit of variation is always good to have. As you can see, I'm using these nice deadland tufts, these grey ones. They'll go nice against that steel stuff I've got there. So I'm also going to mix it up with a little bit of these green tufts, these mountain tufts. These look really nice, and they'll give us a nice sort of shot of green across these builds. So it works out. Individually, these all look really nice. Even put together on the table together, they'll work, I think. So I think this is a really nice quick couple of projects you can sort of whip out. The last thing I'm going to do here is just sort of put a little bit of stain across these posters I've put on, and also the brick walls. And you can see here, this is the finished product. I could certainly do a little bit more if I wanted to, but I'm very happy with this. This is just some quick stuff from some scraps I had. You'll notice that it works. You can whip these up really quickly and get them on the table straight away. So I hope you enjoyed the video. These were a lot of fun for me to do. I love this sort of small detailed build. If you've enjoyed it, please remember to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next video.